Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we are doing the EPA training and development for 2022. It's almost upon us, so we're going to be doing the launch today. I am Jen Dreesen. I am the awarding body training and development manager, and I am joined today by my very esteemed colleague, Angie. Angie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, I'm Angie Carter and I work for the IQA team in endpoint assessment. So, hi, everyone.
Yeah, lovely. And thanks for being with us today, Angie. Greatly appreciated.
No
And
problem.
and thank you all of us or all of you for joining us today. So what are we going to cover today? Well, today we're going to look at defining standardization for EPA. We're also going to go over the plan for 2022 for standardization. So this is the range of activities, training, development opportunities we'll be offering over the next year. Some of them we're already doing right now. We'll also cover timelines. So, what we notionally expect when some of these activities will be taking place, and others will be announced more in the future. We will look again at touching on the launch of the new standards. Many of you have been involved in the level 3 team leader, new BA. We also have level 5 and level 7 coming down the line as well. And we'll also give some advice and some more clarification about the best way to communicate with us here within EPA at CMI, should you need any help or support. Now, if we move forward, one of the big questions to ask before you do anything is, how would you define standardization? Now, I do know that people have very strong opinions about this subject and this question. It's important to remember that standardization is not specific to the education sector. Standardization occurs in a variety of methodologies, means, and tools across a range of sectors, everything from manufacturing to retailing. So it's a very umbrella term that is used. What is important is that we recognize what standardization seeks to actually achieve. So, standardization is really about any tool or methodology or training or support, anything that you do that seeks to reduce deviation and increase conformity. And this helps to equate to a quality outcome. So, if you think about this in terms of assessment, it's about the processes we follow that help to assure that we're giving a robust and valid assessment outcome. Now, standardization itself is not standardized. It really is just an umbrella term. And our regulator Ofqual does not define or prescribe a specific methodology exactly for this reason. They would expect EPAOs or awarding bodies to develop standardization or training and quality assurance methodologies that will cover a broad range of risks and opportunities, and to keep those under continuous review at all times. Again, it's about making sure that what you deliver in terms of assessment is robust. It's valid, and it was fair and consistent. So that's what is really the purpose and the driver of standardization. Now, in terms of off-qual, and my apologies, I appear to be losing my voice this Monday morning. Now, Ofqual did commission a review of standardization back in 2014, for those of us who can remember 2014 this morning. And a large part of that review was focused on the transition of face to face standardization methodology and the shift that happened to online or virtual standardization, which we will all be very familiar with. And they commissioned this study via Alpha Plus. But it's the outcomes that they discovered that are particularly important, and they do help to inform the practice that we will undertake for next year and what we do currently for standardization. Now, what they did find is that there were relatively few prescriptions across awarding bodies or EPAOs with respect to the mode of standardization. So, whether it was remote or it was e facilitated in some fashion or it was just task assignments, uh, no particular methodology was prohibited or was it endorsed. So, this is the regulator taking a very central, neutral position on this. It's really up to the EPAO in this case to determine what the best methodology is based on the standards and the risks that they know that they have to mitigate against. What was very interesting, however, is that they did find that regardless of the methodology used, the evidence of on particular features of training and standardization that are associated with gains or losses in terms of accuracy. So, for you as assessors, the accuracy of your outcome, they really couldn't, it was neither no coherent nor strong. That was their actual wording in this report. In other words, oftentimes that bias we have towards a particular methodology as being very beneficial, when they tried to quantify it, they found that it wasn't as successful as maybe we often assume it is. And there was no clear pattern of improvement, whether things were done in person or they were done remotely. Some individuals really like remote, others really dislike it, and that's okay, but it didn't actually have an adverse impact to quality. So, just things for us to bear in mind, really. Now, when we look at the quality assurance plan that we've developed for 2022, I do want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you that participated in one of the many surveys that I sent out to you this year. Your feedback was absolutely invaluable, and it helped both myself and IQA come up with a comprehensive plan that we hope will be supportive, very useful, and beneficial to everyone. So, what it will look like is, as always, you'll have your EPA quality assurance methodology. This comes from the IQA team. So, this is Angie and all of her colleagues. This is the sampling, the moderation, the feedback, risk ratings. That's one component. The second will be standardization itself, those webinars that can be accessed remotely with the quiz component. This again acts as our final basic outcome for our regulator, Ofqual. We're also introducing clinics. The plan is that these will be webinar based, although we may also host them via Google as well. They will be considered optional, but they do absolutely count towards your CPD, which, as we all know, is a requirement for the standards and will vary by standards. And these will focus on a variety of different topics of interest. We will be having surgeries. We've already launched surgeries. We've done SLMDA, we have CMDA upcoming. We've been doing surgeries on the new level 3 team leader. The focus of surgeries is to keep it very small, to keep it a bit more personal, to allow comments and questions, and just be able to facilitate more discussion during those sessions where that's possible. And in terms of drop ins, we are going to keep them, but they're going to shift to more of a quarterly basis. So we do want to enable assessors the ability to get together with myself as well as the IQA team and have some Q&A, also the social element. But these will happen less frequently because we're going to be doing a lot more surgeries, which will give you more of that active interaction with all of us. I just want to move forward and look at what we're actually going to be doing in all of these particular areas. Now, for clinics, these will be training sessions on specialist skills or subject areas. If you have ideas of things you think might be useful, certainly pop me a Google chat, feed those forward. I'm always happy to take that on board. But this has been developed in particular with IQA. So Angie and the other members of our brilliant IQA team have really done a lot of work and reflection on what would be useful to help develop and support assessors. So we'll be looking at things like writing commentary. We're going to aim to do a session on Ofqual, as they are a regulator, and it is important to understand their view of EPA. We'll be looking at EDI and its impacts within assessment. This is really important, so we want to cover that this year. And we'll also cover areas like pacing a lad. This comes up a lot from assessors. Now, for the surgeries, these will be specialist training sessions that we will endeavor to keep them very specific to the standards themselves. They will focus on procedural risks or weaknesses that are being identified. They're very much IQA led, although I'm often there to support. And sometimes I'm leading them and IQA is supporting them as well. They will always be by invitation because we want to keep these in very small groups so that you all have that equal opportunity to have a voice in the room on the day. They will act as a secondary standardization option. So they'll be running in tandem with the standardization sessions that we do via webinar. So for those of you, for instance, who assess both APM or SLMDA, remember that you have a requirement to meet 2 standardization sessions per year. So attending both the webinar and the surgery meets that requirement for you. Now, for the drop ins, those, as I said before, they're going to shift more to a social element, although Q&A will obviously be encouraged. They'll be hosted on a quarterly basis by myself and IQA when they are available. We will endeavor to do these by invitation and with smaller groups, again, so we can really facilitate some strong discussion and connection during those sessions. Now, in terms of standardizing the standards themselves, we are going to keep using the webinar model. Although it would be lovely to see all of you in person, we are going to be remaining remote as a primary form of delivery. But as always, we will continue to get your feedback and we will always keep that under review. But we will continue to focus on the standards themselves as part of primary standardization activity. There will be a strong focus on CMI procedure as we've set it out. We really want to make sure that when we deliver these assessments, we do them in a very consistent fashion. We'll identify good practice and share that where we can as part of each standard. There will still be the quiz based element. Again, this is part of our sign off with our regulator, so it is a requirement. And again, it will remain webinar based. The nice thing about the webinar is that it means you can access it at your leisure. And we do want to keep that because many of you fed back that actually that's really useful to you. You're all very busy. We know that. Now, when we look at the actual timelines that are coming into play, rather than focus so much on publishing schedules and knowing that we need to be very fluid and highly agile, particularly with the new standards that are being launched, I want to just give you some provisional timeframes and the frequency under which things will happen. So the drop-ins, as I said, they'll be quarterly. They'll be about an hour in duration, and I will begin sending out invitations for those for next year fairly soon. So you will start seeing those invitations come into your inboxes. Now, the standardization, we will stick with the webinars, but we plan to isolate these sessions to February and March. So we'll get our primary standardization sessions done at the start of the year before the real intense period kicks in for all of us. Now, surgeries will be happening on a monthly basis. They will be approximately 1 hour. If we do need to go a little over because there's something of grave concern, we'll certainly build that flexibility in. But they will be monthly and they will be by standard. And again, you will receive specific invitations because, again, we're focusing on keeping small groups. We really want to make sure that we have great inclusivity as a part of these sessions. And the clinics, initially, these will be webinar based. We may also spin off into some surgeries if there seems to be demand or need for that from all of you as assessors. They will be 1 hour as they normally are, and we will confirm when we will be offering these to you. But they hopefully they'll be happening several times over the course of the year. And again, the reminder is that these surgeries do count towards your standardization. So again, if you're doing APM and SLMDA, they require you to do this twice. So please make sure that you do take an opportunity to attend those. And we should move forward from there. Now, in terms of the next slide, hopefully that hasn't locked up there. My apologies. Just touching on the new standards, which I apologize. We appear to be having just a slight problem with the slides there. There we go. They've caught up. So for the new standards, just to remind everybody the approach we're taking. So we do have our usual start with the end in mind launch. As many of you will remember, Cat Cleaver traditionally hosts this, which is fantastic. Um, these are always managed by the assessment team. They give that great overview of the new standard, the assessment materials that will be involved, and that begins our introduction cycle. These will then transition into surgery sessions. Now, these will be small cohort trainings, as we discussed before. It's what we've been doing with the new level 3 standards to date. And again, it really promotes inclusivity because we are keeping these cohorts small. So you will be invited to those, and it will be a very phased approach that we take. Again, this is all about making sure that our assessors have the right amount of support, and that you are able to ask questions and you have access to be able to raise any concerns that you have and give your feedback. There are also pre and post LAD sessions that are hosted oftentimes by IQA, such as Angie. Those of you that have been doing level 3, you've been invited to those. They're a great opportunity to soundboard, share a bit of good practice, observations that you've been making along the way, which we always want to capture. And then, of course, there's the IQA feedback. That is very important, and it's essential that you take IQA feedback on board. So it may combine a summary of multiple labs that you have undertaken, or it may be specific to one lab that you've undertaken. It always, as normal, has that developmental approach. And at times, it may direct you to come back in or reach out to me for some additional support in terms of areas of training and development. Again, these are new standards. I can't stress it enough. We are all on a learning curve, and we really all want to be inclusive and work well together as we go through that journey in launching these new standards. So that is the approach we're taking for that. That will in particular, you'll see that more come into the play as we move for the new level 5, which is coming very quickly. And then, of course, we have new level 7, which is SLA, and that will be in 2022. Now, in terms of scheduling, events will all be communicated to you via diary invitations. So this will come in to your inbox. My apologies, but it will try to keep it as succinct and brief as possible. We do need to be very agile. We need to be flexible. Sometimes we may need to do very short notice surgeries. This is even by IAA request that this is happening. So we really are working hard to be as flexible as possible. Multiple dates and times will always be offered where we can feasibly do that. We have a high level of commitment to supporting all of you. We will try to give as much advance notice as we possibly can, but we also want to be sure that we're offering urgent options. Some of you have done one-to-ones with me. We've done these surgery trainings, just myself and one assessor in the room, and I think it's great to have those opportunities as well. We want to continue forward with that. But later this year, before we close for Christmas, which I can't believe I'm actually saying, and congratulations to those of you who have actually started your Christmas shopping or even thought about it. But we will publish a general schedule as soon as we have that finally agreed. Now, in terms of communication and support, I want to continue to suggest to all of you that you use Google Chat. If you do ever need support in how to use Google Chat, get in touch with me and I will happily have a quick pop up session and go over that with you. But Google Chat is part of your Gmail function. It is on the left hand side of your screen, it's a little plus button. But Google Chat allows you to communicate directly with myself or members of the IQA team. If you need really quick and highly responsive support, it's a great way to communicate with us and it keeps emails from piling up and us risking a message that you may need to get across to us because something's rather urgent or you have a concern. So please do use Google Chat at every chance you get. There would be some obvious exceptions if you have, for instance, the refer fail on a LAD. We still want to stick to the normal protocol of emailing the EPA team. But if there's individual support that you need, please do use Google Chat. That will be facilitate a much faster response in most cases. And just a final reminder about communication and support within EPA. So if you need general support, you have questions on the standards, urgent issues with your lads, something's getting stuck, you have evidence concerns, you need a soundboard, you want to contextualize some IQA feedback, or you just need a general soundboard because maybe you have had one heck of a bad day, please do reach out to me directly. I'm a great first port of call. I'm absolutely committed to supporting our assessors. I do value each and every one of you a great deal. So please do reach out to me via the Google chat, and I will bend over backwards to support you however I can. Now, in terms of the IQA team, you all know them. They're absolutely fantastic. But they will be there for you if you have questions about the specific feedback that they've given you in particular. Maybe you need a little bit more contextualization and understanding. You could certainly reach out to them, but also referrals and fails. Again, we want to be sure that we're feeding those forward to the IQA team. And in terms of the EPA team, this would be Jim's team. So, you know, Laura and Karen, absolutely fantastic. The EPA team. This is where we get into systems, no shows, scheduling, rescheduling of LAD. There's problems, e-portfolio access. If you're really struggling, they may be able to support you where a training provider may not be responding to you. General AO docs or Skillshare support, they're also able to help as well. I am able to give you some IT support as well as a first line support if you need it. But just to try to make sure that you're communicating in the most effective way possible. If in doubt, please just give me a quick shout. Try to have a little bit of a Monday morning rhyme there for you. And I will always do my very best to support you or to get you in touch with the people who can support you. Now, I've done quite a bit of rambling there. I hope some of this was useful for all of you, but now we will open up the floor to any questions that people may have.
I think there's a couple, Jen. Just one, just asking when we're thinking of sending the invites out, is it this 2021 or 2022?
We will endeavor to get as many of those in place in 2021. So you'll have them in your diary for February and March of 2022 for the dates we firmly agreed. Those will go out very, very shortly.
Okay. And are these slides available afterwards for your presentation?
Absolutely. They will be published on the resource library, but as normal, I will send all of you an email. You'll get a link to the webinar itself, and I will send out a link to the slides, which will be in the resource library.
That's all the questions at the moment. I don't think there's any more.
See?
Nope, that's it.
No, it looks like that.
Oh.
Any other questions? Oh, when will the level 5 training begin? Angie, would you like to tackle that? That's going to be very soon, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, we're looking again, as Jen said, at small cohorts to look at working with the small cohort to start with, and then you'll be invited to these again, and then we'll be opening out once we've worked with the small cohorts to get feedback on, and then we'll be opening that out to everybody else for training.
Absolutely, and I think we are due. We provisionally started scheduling in dates for the initial launch, which again would be start with the end of mine. This is with Kat. Myself and IQA may be there as well, but that we are looking at, I believe, week commencing 8th November, and we will be rolling these out. Sometimes we'll be doing 2 sessions a day, straight in the run up to Christmas, and then we'll be picking it up again in January. So it will be very busy, very, very busy indeed. How do you get training on the new level 3 if you have not been invited already? Well, Angie, do you want to tackle that again? I think we touched on we're trying to do these in small cohorts so that we can ensure that everybody is getting great support. If we opened it up to all of you all at once, um, none of you would be really well supported, not the way we'd like to see it. So I think in the new year, we will open it up to more assessors, more cohorts. And I would remind everybody that if you haven't done the mock professional discussion observation session, you will have to do that before you can assess either the new level 3 or the new level 5 or even the new level 7. You do have to go through those. And so we do keep a track of who has been invited to those sessions. And then as we open up, alongside IQA, who is the owner and the driver, you will see invitations coming forward from me. So we will be opening that up. So just keep an eye, Karen, and we will get one out to you.
Yeah,
And yes, I agree. Jim and his team are super helpful. They're really wonderful, and that's very kind of all of you to acknowledge that. They're really great. Uh, Nisha, you're asking about the new level 7. We have that slated for 2022, but no firm dates agreed yet. We will agree that between assessments and IQA, and likely get some communications out before this year ends. And then Dennis, you were asking about system changes for all levels. Can we lay out system changes for all levels? I think, Dennis, do you mean the changes that will be happening within Skillshare and AO Docs? So there are for the new levels, there are some changes such as within AO Docs,
hmm
both the grading descriptor checklist, which is acting as the question bank, and the grading sheet are now attached within AO Docs. Um, but we can certainly make sure that we're covering systems, and we do always take a look at systems as part of the surgeries. But we can definitely also look at Jim doing some clinics with people or surgeries with people about the systems as well.
yeah, yeah. And as Jen said, use the chat box. Because if you've got a question as well, they're really useful. If there's any system that you don't understand or any
Absolutely.
changes.
Absolutely. Will IAAs be going through the quality assurance EAG levels again? It might be my Monday brain, but I'm not sure that I understand what EAG means in this case. So if you could clarify that, be happy to answer that. Angie, do you by chance know what EAG means?
No.
Okay, well, we'll move
No.
forward. There's a few more questions. Uh, Dave's asking about how many IQA reports do you need before, Angie, you would move from a red to an amber to a green. I think it's great to have you here, Angie, to explain
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, usually over a period of time, so we wouldn't be looking at moving someone for a RAG rating within 3 weeks because they would need to take on maybe development feedback. So we do, on average, look over 3 IQA reports, but again, it depends if there's developmental feedback that we need to look at. So it is quite hard to put specifics on when you move, but if there's any if you've got any questions around that, well, then we can talk to you individually if you feel that you haven't moved on your RAG rating, and maybe it could be a chat with the IQA team. So yes, on average, we look at 3 reports over a period of time, especially with the new standards coming up. So with the new level 3, we looked at 3 reports over a period of time.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that because these are new standards, it's not about how many reports. It's about that mutual conversation between and that collaboration between IQA and the assessor that helps to progress you from the various stages of red, amber, green. But a reminder that for each new assessment methodology, or each new standard that you take on. So for those of you that go to do the new level 5, you all go back to red. Nobody is a green. And for the new level 7 SLA, everybody is a red. Nobody is a green. And so you'll see much higher levels of moderation, and a lot more reports coming in from IQA. So it is going to be very busy in 2022. We obviously will have a very strong focus on supporting people for the new levels. But good question, Dave. But it also, it is a bit also how long is a piece of string as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, there's a question on the RAG level you're on. So on the IQA report at the top, it will have your name, our name, what date we did the IQA feedback, and it will also have your RAG rating on there as well.
Yeah.
For that question.
Yeah. And Ashley, you were asking about where you can quickly see which levels you're permitted to assess. You would want to either contact either myself or IQA. We don't actively publish this so that everybody can see who is assessing what. We could certainly have a conversation around that, but because oftentimes assessors may decide to assess something and then change their mind, that would be a schedule that would be a bit tricky to keep live and maintained and accurate on a public face all the time. But if you reach out to myself or you reach out to IQA, we can certainly let you know what you've been approved to assess at this stage. And let's see. And there's a lot of questions about RAG ratings going on. Yes, Allison, you can have a different rating. You absolutely can have a different rating depending on, so you could be doing level 3 and you could have moved to an amber. Now you've picked up level 5 and you're at a red there. You could be a green on one level, but a red someplace else. And there will be different reasons for that. Remember that it does come down to risk, it's partly a combination of factors of risk that the IQA is looking for. So it is really important to engage with those reports that they give you. If you're unclear, you can certainly speak to me about it. You can certainly contact the IQA team, ask for a meeting with them so that you can get greater clarification if you have a concern. We certainly communicate a lot with our assessors, which we're quite happy to do. Yeah, and Kara just, about the RAG rating.
Yeah,
So,
it's always on your feedback,
it's
on your
always on your
report.
feedback. Yeah, absolutely. But don't be disheartened by a RAG rating, and please don't expect that you move from your RAG rating within a number of weeks. It takes months
Yeah.
to move RAG
Yeah.
rating. Think in terms of months.
Yeah.
So, any more questions at this stage about what we're doing? This was just an attempt to let you all in on what our thinking was and our plans for next year. Again, if you do have questions or you have ideas, things you would like to feed forward to me, please just reach out, Google Chat, give that a go. But any more questions at this time from myself or Angie? Doesn't look like it.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, everyone, today. And I'm sure we will be speaking with each other very soon. Have a fantastic rest of the day.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Jen.